Every season of Limbus Company is accompanied by a Limbus Pass with a great amount of rewards. Most of these rewards consist of resources that help you get through the game, as well as some cosmetic items. However, the most anticipated part of every Limbus Pass has to be the wide array of new ego skills, which give more power to free-to-play players and give some very strong tools to those who buy the passes. The Season 6 pass is no exception, even though the amount of skills is lower than usual. And in the most recent update to the game, the first pair of Season 6 egos has been revealed. We got Red Sheet Don Quixote and 100-footed Death Maggot Ishmael. These two skills are not the main highlight ego set of Season 6, so they don't have many particularly innovative mechanics, and yet they still add power to our sinners, which cannot be ignored. In this video I aim to introduce you to the new pair of ego skills added in the Limbus Pass, by first quickly going over what they do and then telling you how you can leverage their strengths to your advantage. But before we do that, I have to tell you that most of my viewers are not subscribed. So if you want to see comprehensive reviews of all the new identities and ego added in Season 6, consider subscribing. It takes just a second and helps me out a lot. Without further ado, let's get back to the new ego skills. We'll go over the two skills one by one, first looking at Red Sheet Don Quixote and then moving on to Death Maggot Ishmael. Starting with Don, Red Sheet is a free ego skill that everyone obtains from the Season 6 pass after reaching level 30. This is a high level 2 coin gluttony ego skill that rolls up to 24 and has 3 attack weight. This skill interacts with a unique effect called Twisted Curse Talisman, which might sound similar to the normal Talisman effect, but it does something completely different. Before looking at the skill itself, let's take a look at the effect. Twisted Curse Talisman stacks up to 10, and when reaching 10 stacks, if an enemy with the effect takes 30 or more damage from a skill, that enemy is also inflicted with 1 Rapture count. That enemy also takes gluttony damage equal to the Rapture potency on self, once per turn. The effect expires at turn end, and when it does, the enemy is inflicted with attack power down next turn equal to 1/4 of the stack. As you can see, the effect is very different from the normal Talisman, playing into Rapture count and damage instead of Rapture potency. Still, it's a pretty useful debuff, as not only does it help with Rapture, but it can also give you a whole turn of 2 attack power down on an enemy, which is pretty great. Now back to the Red Sheet ego skill. The first coin of it inflicts Twisted Curse Talisman equal to 4 plus the current Gluttony Resonance, up to 10. The second coin of the skill then capitalizes on the inflicted effect, dealing extra damage based on Twisted Curse Talisman on target. The same coin also inflicts Rapture potency and count based on the stack, up to 4 and 2 respectively. The effects are pretty solid, allowing the skill to go neutral in count while inflicting Rapture and dealing an okay amount of damage to 3 enemies at once. Red Sheet's Corrosion variant is pretty much exactly what you would expect. It gets negative coins instead of positive ones, inflicts more Twisted Curse Talisman with its first coin, and deals more damage with its second. The Rapture and Rapture count infliction is unchanged, still allowing the skill to go neutral. It's effectively the same thing as the Awakening variant, but the Corrosion can deal more damage if used at the right time, due to its larger damage multiplier and negative coins. The passive of the skill is Enfeebling Talisman, which is a new passive that mirrors the effect of a Mirror Dungeon ego gift, and cannot be stacked with it. Its effect is as follows. On hit with Don's skills, if the target has 15 or more Rapture, or if Don has dealt a critical hit, she inflicts 1 defense level down. The effect of the passive does not stack with that of Old Wooden Doll in the mirror dungeons, so no 100 defense level down for you, sadly. Now that we're done with the skill itself, let's look at how it performs in combat. The first thing I need to mention is its cost, as Ratchet requires 4 resources, 3 of which are provided by Lantern Don Quixote, which is still Don's best identity for Rapture, which is the team that this ego was built for. The damage of Ratchet is pretty solid, dealing 44 raw damage on 3 enemies if it hits both heads. This kind of damage is not exactly going to change your life forever, but it reaches the level of many old ego skills that got extra attack weight at uptie 4. However, considering that Ratchet is free and everyone gets it, and that it deals this kind of damage without needing uptie 4, makes it much cheaper in terms of upgrade resources, and thus friendlier for new players. However, damage is only one part of Ratchet's strength, as the skill also inflicts Twisted Curse Talisman. Now, did I expect the skill to have actual talisman instead of this effect? Yes, and so did most people, I presume. But the effect that we got instead seems even better. Now, hear me out. Normal talisman would be a great effect to get for this skill, as we all know how strong it can be, with Ratchet Sinclair still being the most important support unit in Rapture. However, Talisman's purpose is to swiftly stack up Rapture potency, which means that once the potency reaches 99, Talisman ceases to affect the encounter in any way. Usually this wouldn't be a concern, as you didn't really get to 99 potency all too often in non-mirror dungeon modes. But with the release of Mao Adept Faust, that changed in the most dramatic of ways, as double slotting that identity can lead to a full 99 Rapture potency stack on the second turn of an encounter, even before you can get the chance to fuel Ratchet Dawn. This means that for a well-built Rapture team, Twisted Curse Talisman is straight up better than normal Talisman as the effect on this ego. And don't get me wrong, this isn't just because normal Talisman isn't needed here. Twisted Curse Talisman is an actually good effect, giving you extra Rapture count and free damage if you get a long enough resonance chain. The debuff it inflicts upon expiring is also very notable, as to this day some people keep using Crow's Eye View Yi Sang just to inflict 2 attack power down on an enemy, and Ratchet Dawn can do the exact same thing, while also benefiting your team in more ways than one and hitting 3 enemies. On top of all this, the skill inflicts Rapture, going neutral in count and inflicting potency, while also setting up a 4-3 stack on enemies without Rapture, as the potency is inflicted before the count. Overall, Ratchet Don Quixote is a very useful skill, although not a game-breaking one. It can be used to provide more Rapture value than Lantern Don's skill 1, to add Gluttony Resonance without resorting to blocking, and to hit multiple enemies at once to clear waves quicker, as that's the one aspect where Rapture can still be outperformed by other teams. Moving on, the next ego skill added in the newest update is 100-footed Death Maggot Ishmael. This is a Zayin level 2 Coin Gloom ego skill that rolls up to 20 and has an attack weight of 3. The effects of this ego are very simple. After attack, it inflicts Centipede Venom equal to the total number of debuffs between Ishmael and the skill's main target, with a max of 8 at threat spin 3 and 10 at threat spin 4. The first coin of the skill inflicts Sinking, and the second one inflicts Rapture, while also inflicting more Centipede Venom by Gloom or Gluttony Resonance. Before we look at anything else, let's check out the new effect brought with the skill. Centipede Venom stacks up to 20 and inflicts defense level down by a quarter of the stack at turn end. before also dealing gluttony damage equal to the stack, and then halving it. If an enemy with the effect dies, Centipede Venom transfers to another enemy with the lowest amount of the effect. Overall, Venom just deals a small amount of extra damage at the end of every turn, while also very slightly debuffing the enemy's defense, making them take more damage. Back to the skill itself, the corrosion variant is exactly what you would expect. Pretty much the exact same thing, but with negative coins. It actually inflicts more effects than the Awakening version at Strat Spin 3, but for whatever reason loses that advantage at Strat Spin 4, as the Awakening gets stronger while the corrosion doesn't. Death Maggot's passive is Reversal Death by Goo Poison, and it has the following effect. Whenever Ishmael inflicts any kind of sinking using her skills, she gets 1 offense level up next turn, up to 2 times per turn. If there's an absolute resonance present, the cap goes up to 3 offense level up. Much like with Red Sheet, this passive is very similar to the effect of a Mirror Dungeon Ego Gift, and this time it's Red Order. However, it seems like due to the fact that the effect is slightly different, it actually does not cancel out that of Red Order. Now that we're done with the skill itself, let's look at it in combat. Once again, the first and most important thing to highlight here is the cost of the skill. 2 Sloth and 2 Pride make Death Maggot one of the cheapest egos in the entire game, while it also gets perfectly fueled by Mauler Boatworks Ishmael. Speaking of that identity, Mauler Ishmael is pretty much the perfect holder for the skill, as its Gloom affinity is helpful in sinking when used in high resource environments. It inflicts a bit of sinking, interacts with Gloom Resonance, and actually buffs up Ishmael whenever she inflicts sinking, which is every turn if you're using Mauler Boatworks. However, even though that is the case, I personally believe that it's a good idea to run 100-footed Death Maggot on every Ishmael identity, unless your team literally cannot generate the required resources. This is because the skill is just miles better than Snag Harpoon in comparison. Ishmael's base Zain Ego only hits one enemy, retargets in unfocused encounters, and is just used to win clashes or if you desperately need to lower an enemy's speed. Additionally, its passive can be actively detrimental to Ishmael, taking away 2 clash power if you're choosing favorable clashes with this sinner. Death Maggot, on the other hand, is no more expensive than Snag Harpoon, but hits for 35 raw on 3 enemies, while also not clashing much worse than the base skill, due to it having 6 more offense level. Additionally, even though Centipede Venom deals minimal damage, it still is more damage, and can even deal more damage on its own than one use of Snag Harpoon. And of course, the passive of this skill doesn't actively make Ishmael weaker, sometimes for no reason. This means that Death Maggot Ishmael will become a mainstay Zain Ego in pretty much every situation I can think of, as it's very strong for its cost, even though it's also very boring. With this, my overview of the 2 new ego skills added in the second week of Season 6 has come to an end. And holy shit, what are these Talisman nerfs? I'm not going to change the text of the Red Sheet part of the video, but wow, expect to hear more from me very soon, because this is crazy. Anyways, as always, if you disagree or have something to add, leave a comment down below, and I'll make sure to read all of them. If you enjoyed the video at any point, consider subscribing to see more like this in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye!